Okay, we are live.
Awesome.
Awesome. Welcome, Anastasia. It's my pleasure to have you. It's my pleasure to have you on Crypto Conversation. Been hearing a lot about you. You travel to Acapulco, and I've been hearing you talking about the importance of decentralization, what Bitcoin is going to bring to everyone in this world. And so yes, I'm excited to have you on the channel. We are also going to talk about the Nexus Earth, the one that you are associated with right now as well. So it's my pleasure to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to talk about all of these big, exciting, futuristic projects.
Awesome. So before we begin, let me see. Okay, we have a couple of people joining us. So we have Deepak, we have Kiran. Hi, Deepak says hello, ma'am. Okay.
Hi.
All right, great. So Anastasia, let's start with a small introduction. Would you like to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself? How did you come to know about Bitcoin, the decentralization, and a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, of course. So I guess my journey really started in 2016 when I got very plugged into the libertarian and voluntarist communities. And through them, I discovered Steem. Steem was actually the first currency that I had gone out and bought because I'm a writer, and I thought that a platform that pays its content creators in crypto was a really, really great idea instead of what we see on regular social medias like Facebook and Twitter, where they basically make all of the profit off of the creative things that people put on their platforms. So, of course, buying Steemit led me to Bitcoin, and then it, became a deep, deep rabbit hole of crypto information and learning how blockchain works and getting into the market and, connecting with more voluntarists that were involved in the cryptocurrency community. And then eventually finding Nexus, volunteering for them, and then working for them full time. That's the newest development. So it's been a great couple years.
So what is it that excited you a lot? So I know that you discovered Steemit, and then you found out this decentralized social media, which is so important. Then you found out that really nobody really controls the data on Steemit. I mean, now people can come on board and can share information, like each other's post, and without actually sharing their real information with anybody, like what we heard about the recent Facebook controversy as well, wherein the millions of profiles were sold just to influence voters to vote against, for a certain person. So what is it that attracted you in Steemit? And so why do you think the decentralization is so important?
Well, so Steemit was just because I've had this kind of, sort of relationship with copyright and patent laws, because as somebody who is a content creator, I was always afraid that my stuff was going to be stolen and somebody else was going to profit off of it. Kind of a natural fear. And so I never really put a lot of my work out on the internet because I didn't know where it was going to end up, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing it without knowing that I had ownership over my own creative content. I don't really believe in copyright or patent laws because I don't think that the government necessarily should be in control of it. I think the content creators are the ones who should be in control of their information. And platforms like Steemit, and in general having the blockchain open ledger where you can put any kind of data on and have your private key be the signature stamp that it is something that's yours. It's basically digitalizing ownership on the internet. Right. And that's an extremely, extremely revolutionary idea, that we have this digital space that's virtual and we can't really touch it, to then have a stamp of ownership that can be, that can be verified, that can be validated, and that can be used in pretty much any kind of industry. As to the decentralization, we all know that centralized servers are a point of a weak point of security. There's a lot of things that can happen to it. It's controlled by one person or one organization. How do you know that that organization or person is really keeping it safe, really keeping it the way it's supposed to be? So decentralization is really important to get rid of that centralized point of failure, and to also distribute the information and distribute things like financial transactions more evenly between people.
So it's pretty much the same thing with the Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin is again a decentralized currency. If you look at the total, the monetary system that we have is so much centralized. It's one authority just deciding how much to print and how much to distribute. And of course, since they have this power, they also they misuse this power at times in the form of creating wars and whatnot. So let's talk about Bitcoin. So now Bitcoin, of course, is the first decentralized cryptocurrency. So if there is somebody new, how would you explain Bitcoin to him or her? What is Bitcoin according to you?
Well, I mean, Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency. Basically, it's putting your cash onto the internet. And because you have that stamp of, hey, this is coming from my address, you know that that Bitcoin is coming directly from you and it's going directly to that other address. And basically what it's doing is it's getting rid of the middleman. So while brokers and banks have been the financial middleman for people as the trusted party throughout thousands of years now, all of a sudden we're realizing that maybe they're not as trustworthy as we thought they were. So Bitcoin is eliminating that third person, that third party, and putting the trust into the mathematics, so that you know when you send a transaction that it's going to go to the right place and it's going to send the amount that you want. And the best part about Bitcoin is that it basically, all cryptocurrencies in general are moving us away from a debt-based monetary system into a prosperity-based monetary system. So while our fiat currencies like dollars and rupees and rubles and all of the other currencies are debt-based, so you can basically go to the bank and take out money that doesn't exist yet, and then it's like a negative amount of money that you're taking, and then you pay that off over time. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies don't have that capability. You'll never see somebody owning negative amounts of Bitcoin or negative amounts of Nexus. You'll always see it as a prosperity-based system. And, you can still have all of the wonderful things that our financial system has now, like having interest on your savings or being able to borrow it. But there's no way that you could have like a negative amount of these types of currencies, which eliminates the entire debt problem.
So what kind of challenges do you see? Obviously, this is a threat to what the system that we have been living in, the centralized, right? So we recently heard about the cartel manipulating the Bitcoin price. Mm-hmm. As I understand that this is a powerful technology, which is basically giving people back that power, the money, right? But what kind of challenges do you see from these regulatories and central authorities in terms of, adoption? Do you see they are going to threaten it? They are going to play some games? What kind of challenges do you see coming from them?
Definitely. There's that whole theory of price manipulation, which or price suppression, which we have seen in precious metals like gold and silver. We see it in oil a lot as OPEC controls most of the supply, and the the petrodollar is constantly suppressed and manipulated. So it looks like from the futures. The futures is where this price suppression comes from, and since the futures for Bitcoin did open in October last year, it's possible that we might be seeing some of that happen in the crypto market as well. And then we have some regulations. I don't think these things are so much a threat to the technology, because the thing about innovative technologies is no matter what governments do, people will very quickly see the value of it. And when something has value and people realize that, they're going to keep going after it. They're going to keep buying it. They're going to keep selling it. They're going to keep using it. And it's just like, you know, naysayers back in the 90s said that, oh, the internet would never work. How could you really send information through these devices? And the internet didn't wait for government regulations. It just continued developing, and people got on board and started working on this technology and started building websites and putting out information on there. And sure, we face problems like censorship now, you know, 20, 30 years later, but that hasn't stopped the internet. Nobody has shut it down. And I think that's kind of the same with cryptocurrencies and blockchain tech in general. And it's not just the currency aspect of it. The technology itself is going to be beneficial to all sorts of industries: real estate, medical industry, you know, even agriculture, anything that has to do with accounting, anything that has to do with just in general ownership of digital information. So things like identity as well.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
could, it's going to be big. And I don't think it can be stopped.
True. So, I mean, of course, the technologies, nobody can ever stop the technology. I mean, that has happened in the history is the example. I mean, nobody could stop the computers. Nobody could stop the internet. And I'm sure nobody would be able to stop this new innovation, the blockchain, the decentralization. Yes, there are going to be people who will try to manipulate and try to scare people. I mean, to give an example of India as well, right? So Indian scenario was such that there have been continuous warning from the central authorities that cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin investments are very risky, and definitely do your research before investing, which is good in a way, because it is risky. It is very risky.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
So yes.
Yeah, I don't like give financial advice or anything. I just try to educate people. And some of the most important things that I think we have to educate about in this community and in this sphere, for especially the early you know, participants, is to really talk to them about the basic principles of putting your money into speculative, you know, assets. So it's basically common sense things like, don't put in more than what you can afford to lose. Not what you can afford to spend, what you can afford to lose. So this is something that if you're saving some entertainment money to go to the movies for a couple of weeks, that's the money that you should be putting in. Not refinancing your mortgage, not putting in your rent payments, not penny pinching every single month. Just putting the amount of money that you can afford to lose. And then you also have to remember that, you know, because it's a speculative market, you have to think about the market cycles. You have to think long term. You have to remember to buy low and sell high, not the other way around. And if all of a sudden you find yourself in a place where the price is really low, you have to hold through that without any kind of emotionality. Like, you have to commit to your plan of how you're going to put in your money and how you're going to, and what projects you're going to support with that. I always say, you know, instead of voting for a representative, vote with your money instead. And the way that you vote with your money is you support projects that you have looked into, that you've researched, that you feel passionate about, that you actually have an idea of what their technology and what their team is like, what the company is about, what their vision is. You know, all of these different things, do your due diligence. And then you can confidently support them with your dollar or your Bitcoin or your Nexus or whatever it is.
You're absolutely right. So take this innovation as a technological change, or be a part of this technological change. Do not purely take it from an investment point of view, right? But at the same time, do not restrict. If you see an opportunity, take the advantage of it. But your primary focus should be to be a part of this innovation and not really make a quick buck. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's exactly how I got into it. I mean, Steam was my first one. I already explained that was because that platform has a very, very good utility for me personally. So anybody who feels the same way about their content, whether you're an artist or a writer or an academic of some sort, then that's the kind of platform that you want to support, because that platform in turn is supporting you. Same thing with Nexus. When I found the Nexus project, I saw it for the technological innovation that it is, and for the things that the entire technology can bring to other people once it's all built out and ready for the world, because we are building a pretty large internet network in space.
That's pretty.
So that's going to take a couple years.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to ask you. So, could you tell us what exactly Nexus is? And yeah, tell us what exactly Nexus is, and then what are its use cases?
Yeah, of course. So Nexus Earth is basically advancement to the blockchain protocol. So what Colin Cantrell, who's the architect of the Nexus blockchain, did is he looked at Satoshi's code, and he looked at a bunch of other cryptocurrency codes, and he looked at all the problems that Bitcoin has been facing for the last couple of years, like within its first, however long, Nexus first originated around 2014. So he looked at that and he broke down the code and he rewrote it with scalability in mind, with low transaction fees, with quantum resistance within the algorithms, and then decided to use that blockchain and put it on satellites to create a mesh network around the world, so that we can not only have decentralized software, which is the blockchain, but we can have decentralized hardware as well. So instead of these satellites being owned by big, internet service providers, we can have it where everybody owns the internet by just contributing to the network with either using the three-dimensional chain or by actually having a node, a satellite in space, or a ground station on the Earth, or using your wallet, because those are all nodes within the blockchain. So Nexus is a platform. It's a peer-to-peer network. There's really going to be a lot of use cases for it once it gets built out, because if we create the internet, then you can put up websites, you can put up projects, you can use the blockchain that we have to create your own blockchain for whatever specific reason you need to have it for.
So you mentioned that Nexus has been building right from 2014 to 2014. So I mean, a lot of projects that I see are very newbie. I mean, they started maybe 6 months back or 1 year back. So this is very so this is very interesting, because any project takes a lot of time before it actually launches. So I'm glad you said that. And so is it going to be having an ICO, or how does it work?
So Nexus was never an ICO. It was actually mined with a Genesis block, just like Bitcoin and some of the other earlier coins. It started out as a token that was like way back in the day, before the Nexus vision was all set up. It started out to try to weed out scams out of the sphere, and then Colin revamped it and came up with this brilliant idea of how to advance the blockchain and make it much more secure, much more scalable, unlike all of the other ones. And we don't participate in ICOs. We don't participate in pump and dumps. We try not to. We don't have a timeline or a roadmap, because we don't want to put out dates that may make people FOMO or make them FUD or any of those things. We want the technology to speak for itself, and to provide a real, use case for people, instead of just hyping up information and then not delivering, which has been the case with a couple of the projects out there.
So this is not on the code, because I had a question in the chat box here that is it being traded already? Is it on the coin market?
Yes, it's on CoinMarketCap. You can find it. Our ticker is NXS. And you can find it on Bittrex, Cryptopia, CoinSpot, which is in Australia, Upbit in Korea, and then also a couple of smaller places. But Bittrex and Cryptopia would probably be our largest volumes.
Okay.
Along with Upbit.
Okay, so while I'm looking at it right now, so it's called Nexus. Let me find out. Yeah, so this is NXS.
Yep.
It's $1.48 and being traded on various markets, right? Interesting. Okay, great. Anastasia, you just went for an Acapulco.
Yes, it was amazing.
That's one place that I want to be.
Yeah. Well, you should definitely come next year. It's going to be even more amazing, I'm sure.
I'm a big fan of Jeff Bowick.
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you met him and a bunch of other anarchists as well. I think you had Mike Maloney as well this time.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, met a lot of new people. Also saw a lot of people that I just knew on Facebook. Okay. And then it was like, hey, you know, I'm this name. And I'm like, oh, I'm Anastasia. Oh, we know each other on the internet. Cool. Now we get to hang out in real life. Cool. So, and you just like connect so much more with these people that you kind of see on screen, or you talk on the phone, or you just chat through messages. And it's a great experience because everyone's very like-minded, and but still has their, you know, strong individuality, because that's what voluntarism and anarchy is all about. It's about being a strong, wonderful individual, and then but still having some kind of foundational you know, sameness in your ideology of voluntary exchange, etc.
My God, that's the coolest place and time to be in, actually, especially when you know that you're going to meet a lot of people who thinks exactly like you, and share some experience. This was a 2-day or 3-day program. Was it a 2-day?
So it's expanded to like 2 or 3 weeks now. So there was like a health and wellness conference right before that, and then Anarcho happened, which is it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the Jeff's TDV conference is after that. And then there's all of the speakers from Anarcho that come out and do all of these amazing workshops. Like Luke Brodowski did a workshop, Mark Passio did a workshop. I believe Dana Martin did. I'm not sure this year, but definitely like last year. So they come out and, you know, and Larkin did his Candles in the Dark with Amanda. So I've only heard great things about that event. So you come in and you actually get to talk to these speakers afterwards, and you get to do hands-on stuff with them of how to communicate better, how to spread the message, how to peaceful parents, how, you know, all of these kind of how-tos with the people who have presented in Anarcho. And then after that, there was an Anarcho as well. So it was like a fourth from Anarcho, and I'm not really sure what happened there because I had to leave early, but I heard it was a lot of fun and a lot of like one-on-one connection, and really more like private in a way, so you could get to know people really well on like a very deep level. So yeah, so it's become this huge, like almost month-long event, but the actual conference is about 4 days.
Are you going in for the consensus?
Am I what?
Are you going in for the Consensus 2018 in New York?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I haven't worked out all of the conferences yet. I'd love to go to all of them, but I kind of have to pick and choose a little bit which ones I can afford.
Exactly. You know, it's so much fun to actually go to these conferences and talk about the decentralization and meet so many people. I went to a couple of them. I really enjoyed, and sometimes you really don't want to come back home.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. but then you know what? But then you come home and you're like rejuvenated and inspired, and you feel like you it's like, you know, that saying, like you become the 5 people that you associate yourself most with. So all of a sudden you're associating yourself with all of these beautiful people who are starting all of these projects and taking all of these risks. I mean, most of the people at these conferences are entrepreneurs, you know, and entrepreneurs are usually visionaries. They're the risk takers. They're the ones who go out there, and they're the ones who are self-improving and coming up with new ideas and new ways to do things that we've never even thought of. So you pick up all of that energy from them, and then you go home and you're like, I want to do these amazing things too. And that's how I felt last year. Like last year was my first Anarcho, and I definitely wasn't in the same place mentally as I am now. So I was still like kind of like flourishing and seeing, you know, like getting out of my comfort zone and trying new things and learning about the tech. And so I went there and I was so inspired, and I came home and I like haven't stopped doing things since. You know, first it was activism, then it was like really deep into crypto. And then last September, after the Nexus conference, I started volunteering for them basically full time. And in the fall, I also joined Ubiquity LLC. We're a company that is putting title and property owner information onto the blockchain.
Wow.
So that's one of the great use cases for it, is transferring all of that data. So one day when you say that you own your house, you will own the digital title to your house too, and you'll be able to prove it, and you'll be able to, to sell your house peer to peer and have this information on the blockchain where it doesn't get lost. And as long as you have the private keys, you have those ownership documents.
That's one of the biggest use case for blockchain because you have so many frauds in land, especially in India. There are so many frauds in land. There are cases pending in courts for decades, and there is no solution. So blockchain will solve that big time. Yeah. And when you mentioned that you learned so much after you went, so this was your second edition for Acapulco. And you were not the same Anastasiya that was for the first time.
No, not at all. So different. It's just so different. Yeah, this year has been just a continuous blessing, and I feel like I've finally found my purpose, and I'm putting my skills to real use for humanity. And I think that's where all of us really find fulfillment, is when we find something that can bring so much value to other people, and we're passionate about it, and we throw our heart and soul into it. Like I'm in the office on a Sunday night, and I'm perfectly happy about it.
Sure, you're right. I mean, this is a very strong point that you mentioned, that, and this is what even I have seen, and me myself have felt that cryptocurrency and blockchain have given, all of a sudden have given you a different purpose to live, to wake up every day. But all of a sudden you have something that you are very passionate about, so, and that's very interesting. That's the one thing that even a lot of money or investment would not probably able to give you, the passion.
No, definitely not. And I mean, I've definitely seen, people who have invested a lot of money into the cryptocurrency space, but they're kind of miserable, and they're always panicking about, what's happening in the markets, and focusing on, the emotionality of these cycles. And it's like, well, yeah, you're making tons of money, and that's great, but it doesn't seem like you're happy because of it. But then people who are putting in like $200, $300 into projects they really believe in, you see them get active in the communities and start, side projects in Slack and contribute to the project, and they, they're in there every single day, and they're like, this is awesome, like, you guys are awesome, let's do more stuff, So yeah, so passion is like key ingredient, I think.
Awesome. So anything else that you want to share, Anastasiya? It was my pleasure having you. Any advice, anything that you want to share with the audience, do's, don'ts, anything that you want to share?
Yeah, actually, so I shared this the other day on my Facebook, because that's usually my main social media site. I have a pretty large network there that I'm absolutely in love with. But I mentioned, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you get into the cryptocurrency industry? How do you get into blockchain? Like, what do you do? Like, who do you talk to? And my advice to them was really to kind of do what I did, speaking from personal experience. And that's find a project that you're really passionate about, that gets you going. Like, I can tell you that Nexus, I love it because, one, it's a cryptocurrency project. Two, it has to do with space, and being born in the Soviet Union and coming from the age of the space race, like, space was just the most amazing thing. Like, I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be an astronomer when I was little, I wanted to, go to the moon, all of these things. So that's, that was why it was my passion. So find a project that you're passionate about, and then go and learn everything you possibly can about it. Read the white paper, talk to the team, join their Slack, their Telegram, whatever channel that they're on. Get to know the community, and then start volunteering and giving up your free time to help the project in any way that you can. This is like everybody's land right now. This is anybody can come in. You can have 2 years marketing experience, 50 years marketing experience. You can just be great at writing. You can be somebody who is really great at social media. You can be a developer. You can be an economist, a historian. Really anything that you have skills for, you can get into a cryptocurrency project and help them somehow. And then once you start going to the conferences and really getting in touch with the community, well, then it's possible that you're going to end up here full time. leave your day job in the dust, get into here, blockchain and crypto, and see where this takes us, because this is one of the biggest socioeconomic experiments of our time. And none of us know where it's going to go. None of us know how it's going to end. But it's exciting to try it, because if it works, then our entire world is going to change, and change for the better.
Yeah. And that was very powerful and energetic. So where can people find more about Nexus and about you as well?
Yeah, so for Nexus, go to www.nexusearth.com.
I have it open on my screen.
Yeah, that's the main one. So you can actually join our Slack channel from there, or you can just email admin@nexus.io, and we can add you to our Slack. We have a hub with pods, and pods are basically like 8-people teams that have a specific goal, and they work together for whatever it is that we're looking for. Like, I started volunteering in a content pod, so we basically wrote the website together, and that was really, really cool, because that was when I was still volunteering. And then also our conference this year, I can finally announce it, is going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And traditionally it's been, well, last year was the first one, but traditionally we wanted to be on Nexus's birthday, which is September 23rd to 24th. So that's where that's right around the dates that we're going to be holding this year's Nexus conference. And it's going to be in Phoenix, which is our headquarters and hometown. So I do hope to see everybody there. It's going to be really exciting.
Wow. So that's September 23rd and 24th.
Yep, just around there. We don't have the date solidified just yet, but it's definitely going to be here.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. And what about you? You have a Twitter handle or something where people can...
Yes. At Lady Anarchy with a K-I. And that's... Yeah, Lady Anarchy. Okay, and then on Steemit, I'm MS Clever Clocks. And then on Facebook, I believe it's like /ASM74 or something, but we can always link it. My name's a little bit
I'll
to
mention
spell.
that. Exactly. Yeah, I'll mention those links in the description below as well. Let me see if there is anything that we can pick up from the chat box. And then okay, we have Shiva. I have a question for her. When you entered in crypto, what was your idea about the... So Gaurav has a question for you. He says,
Sure.
When you entered in crypto, what was your idea about this new technology? Was it tech to change the world, or it was tech with money making opportunity? I think I know the answer.
So yeah, for me, it was definitely the change the world part. It still is. Like, money has never been a motivator for me. It's nice to have, but I'm one of those people who's like, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I'll figure it out. So for me, coming from an activist background and teaching people because I was teaching people about financial independence even before that. I've been talking about the Federal Reserve for years, and that was kind of the thing that I saw with this technology, at least with Bitcoin at first, was the financial freedom. And I believe that financial freedom is the stepping stone to all other freedoms, because you look at a 4-person family, and when they're struggling, they're not thinking about how to change the world. They're not thinking about how to help their neighbor, how to protect themselves. They're not thinking about these big ideas that are so important for our society to evolve and to become safer and to be filled with more love and more compassion and, all of those good things. But once the dad or the mom get a better job and there's a little bit more income and they can have a little bit more time with their families, well, then now they might be on the internet, they might be reading some new stuff, they might be buying some new books, they might be going to a different country to see a different culture. And that's how we learn and how we grow and how we remember how important freedom is to us. So that was the big pull for me, is that it is an alternative to the Federal Reserve System that has been oppressing us through these financial manipulations and suppressions and just in general having this debt-based system where everybody is trying to catch up to future profits that may never come. Anytime you take out a loan, you're basically saying sometime in the future, I'm going to give enough labor to be able to pay that back. But for most people in the world, that's not something that they're ever going to be able to do. And I want to stop that kind of system and offer a better system where instead of taking on this debt, you're taking on something that will increase in value over time and give you prosperity and help you take care of your family. That's the most important thing in this world, is us as human beings being able to take care of our families, our neighbors, and our communities voluntarily.
We have a question from Dinaka. He says, how Nexus can help us in present ecosystem?
So what Colin did is he made the code completely open source.
Yeah.
So what we are hoping for is that some of these other cryptocurrencies take a look at our code and with their consensus systems actually upgrade to the three-dimensional chain. Because it solves all of these problems and because it uses quantum resistant algorithms, quantum computers are going to be a big player within this economy in a couple of years. Yeah. It might be 5, it may be 10, it may even be 15, but there are brilliant minds around the world already working on this. And we have all the theories in front of us too, and all of the mathematics are out there. We just haven't really, created a quantum computer just yet. But when it does come about, we need everybody in the cryptocurrency industry to update their code and make sure that it's quantum resistant. So Nexus offers that first and foremost. And then we also have our own economic model, and then we have the decentralized blockchain internet that we want to bring to the world, which, again, blockchain is decentralized software. We want to have decentralized hardware. Did you know that the cables that they run through the ocean are like $300 million per cable? And the cube satellites that we're looking at to send out into space are anywhere from like 30K to 100K, depending on the size.
My goodness.
So can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine what kind of change that would be for us? And I mean, cables, like we have divers that have to go deep into the ocean to try to fix them. There's like sharks and rodents all over the place, like trying to chew them up. We lose our connection all the time.
Wow.
And and so Nexus wants to fix those kinds of problems and offer an alternate way for us to connect. We're also integrating with Lisp, and Lisp is an internet architecture that I won't go into like too much technical detail, but what it basically does is it helps the internet scale better. So instead of having the 4.3 IP addresses, or 4.3 billion, IP addresses that we have today, we could actually give this service to everybody in the world. It makes our connection smoother, faster, lighter, easier to connect to Wi-Fi and LTE. And all of those things are the foundational levels of how we're going to improve the way that our peer-to-peer networks work.
Amazing. This is going to be one of the very important projects from blockchain space, I think, which is going to bring a lot of change, necessary change, I think, in the world in the near future. So, and I can see all that, and I can exactly see why you got associated with this project and why this so much of energy, where this energy in you coming from, because obviously it's such an exciting, because that you're contributing in such a big way to the world. So. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Anastasiya. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you so much, and take care, and I'll see you soon.
You as well. Bye.
Thank you.